Hello and welcome to qualifying for round 14 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. With one round under our belts here in London, we're back to do it all over again. And if yesterday's action is anything to go by, this will be no Sunday drive. On the banks of the Royal Victoria Dock, the fight for the Formula E Championship continues on a circuit that runs both inside and outside the Excel Centre. Nobody else in international motorsport does anything quite like this, and something tells me we're about to raise the roof.
Welcome to the Formula E World Championship and the London E-Prix. All 5 lights are on.
And we can win in London!
Hi everyone and welcome to the morning after the night or day before. This is round 14, qualifying for round 14 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. I'm joined by IndyCar superhero Dario Franchitti and the best motorsport commentator that we could afford this morning, Jack Nicholls. Gentlemen, yesterday was epic, wasn't it? We shouldn't move on without saying congratulations to Jake Dennis, easy for me to say. A phenomenal performance yesterday, Jack.
Dake was superb yesterday, absolutely unstoppable. And he was dominant as well. I think that was the really impressive thing. Quickest in practice, quickest in all of qualifying, and then just led from the front. It was superb. And can he do it again today? That's going to be the question. That's going to be what the fans will want to see, because the atmosphere was phenomenal. And we'll see if he's got it in his locker again. Yeah,
it was really nice to see the fan support for Jake Dennis, wasn't it?
That was brilliant. You know, in qualifying, every time he finished a lap, the fans would applaud him, and he said he could actually hear it on the slowing down lap, and he gave them all a wave and everything, and really soaking that up. But yeah, difficult for him to do it again today, because all the teams overnight crunched the numbers, tried to improve things. The Andretti team will be doing the same. They had a first and a fourth yesterday with Jake Dennis and Oliver Askew, but everything moves on, even in the short space of time between yesterday's race and today's. But yeah, there's nothing like a home win, is there?
No, absolutely not. Jack, as we get to the busiest end of the season, only 2 races in Seoul after this weekend. The four runners, shall we say. Stoffel Vandoorne had a great day yesterday, 2nd place, but the other 3 not so good. Mitch Evans managed to rescue 8 points.
Yeah, he recovered and got up into 2nd in the championship, which is actually the highest he's been in the championship all season. But he is 24 points now behind Stoffel Vandoorne. So there's 25 points for a race win. So he's a little bit adrift, but still in the mix. Mortara's only 3 points behind him, so that's sort of all right. But Jean-Eric Vergne is the one who has dropped away and maybe out of championship contention. Now, earlier on in practice, we saw DS Techeetah with Da Costa do a good lap. And we cut to the Techeetah garage, and James Rossiter went, finally. Like, finally, they've had a good lap, because they've been nowhere all weekend. So Vergne needs to get through the duels today if he's got any chance of keeping his championship alive. But it's pretty much over already, isn't it?
Whoa, okay, Jack. Because the light at the Mercedes garage has gone a little bit brighter. Stoffel had a great day, 2nd place.
Yeah, Stoffel Vandoorne had a great day yesterday. The Mercedes team have been so consistent all year, and that's going to be the worry for other people. Others have been hit and miss. Mercedes haven't. So we need a big qualifying session from Jean-Eric Vergne to have any chance of staying in the championship fight.
All right, well, let's go down to the DS Techeetah garage with our colleague Nikki Shields, find out whether it is over for Jev.
Indeed. Well, it is no secret that DS Techeetah had a really tough day yesterday. Joining me now is the team principal, Thomas Chevachet. Thomas, let's just recap on what happened yesterday, because no points on the board for Jean-Eric Vergne. He's now 45 points behind Stoffel Vandoorne. What does that mean for his championship hopes?
It's a challenge. We have to reckon it will be a challenge. We will not give up before the last day of Seoul, but definitely for Jev it will become challenging. We have to push now, we have to score big points. but obviously it's not the best track for us. So yeah, we are a bit in the corner on the driver side, which is quite different on the team side. Team side, we are still there.
Yeah.
A lot of things can still happen, and we will definitely work as a team to make some things happen.
Obviously, you want to get both drivers to get as many points on the board as possible, so it's real attack mode. But have you talked to them about attacking each other? Because there was a bit of a collision between the two of them yesterday. What went on?
Yeah, basically it was fine. I mean, Jeff had a lockup, which can happen especially at the beginning of the race. So we discussed all together internally. That's fine. To be honest, that's no problem. We are really working as a team now, like we were already yesterday. That's no problem. Just mistake happen. It can always.
Well, all the best for today. Looking good with Antonio Felix da Costa. Great lap from him in FP3 this morning. So all the best. Thank you very much, Thomas Chevrolet.
Does it get any better in Formula E than winning FP2, winning qualies, winning a race, and having the fastest lap with a man who did that 24 hours ago, Jake Dennis? It was absolutely off the charts, and a standing ovation as well. It was special.
Yeah, I think that word is so correct. You know, it was a special day for everyone. You know, the team, myself, it was the team's first win, and obviously my first win of the year. So, and today, obviously in front of the home crowd was honestly one of the best moments you could have possibly wished for in Formula E. So you can literally hear them as I crossed the line and came off the throttle. You can obviously hear the crowd, the standing ovation. So yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
And you were properly overwhelmed after. You could see what it actually meant to you personally.
Oh, for sure. You know, obviously you got your family and friends here, and then obviously to see everyone just cheering for you and just generally happy for the British guy winning his home race. It's just it's so cool to experience. And yeah, got to try and do it again today, that's for sure. You know, you can't celebrate too hard. You just need to sort of knuckle down, get back into the data, and then do it all again today.
And how tough will that be to kind of turn your race face on again?
Yeah, it's never easy for sure, but we've just had a good free practice 3, and we were P5, so we're right in the mix of it. So if we just have a nice clean qualifying session, hopefully we can make it through to the duels, and then then it's anyone's obviously in the knockout stage. So let's see what happens.
Make the magic happen again, mate. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Rookie of the Year last year, Jake Dennis. Do you think he's kicked on enough this season?
I think he's been more limited in the performance of the car this year. Last year, he right from day one as a rookie was right in there, and up until the last race in the championship, he was in there. And it was actually a mechanical failure took him out of championship contention. So the pace has been a bit more inconsistent this year, but I think a lot of that may be down to the Avalanche Andretti team going from factory status to a privateer team.
Yeah, very true. Let's talk about Jev, shall we? Is he out? Come on, give us your racing perspective, Dario. If you were him now, what are you thinking?
He's under pressure. This qualifying session that's about to happen, his group run, he's got 2 laps really in group qualifying, one in the first 6 minutes, then the next, the final lap. It's got to be perfect because he's got to get into the dual stages today. If he doesn't, he can kiss any hope of that 3rd Formula E World Championship. You can kiss it goodbye.
That bickering between him and Antonio Felix da Costa, it's still lingering. Whatever they say, it's still lingering.
Yeah, you shouldn't be running into your teammate on track, and the team bosses there, they need to take control. The bosses run the team, the drivers don't run the team. And, both good guys, but they've got to get a hold of that situation in the garage.
All right, here we go. This is it. Qualifying for round 14. It's vital for a lot of drivers. Jack, over to you.
Welcome to London. Qualifying for round 14 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship coming up. A race that is crucial as we get into the business end of this Formula E season. Out in qualifying Group A will be the championship leader Stoffel Vandoorne and 3rd place man Eduardo Mortara. They're going to be the focus to try and get through. But we've also got Jake Dennis, yesterday's race winner in there, Sam Bird in his home race, Oliver Rowland looking for a better result after he hit the wall yesterday for the Mahindra team. And the fans are in the stands, ready to go. 12 minutes on the clock, and there is Jake Dennis. Can he repeat his masterful performance from yesterday? After securing pole position, he's won 10 duels, only lost 4 as Jake Dennis, and he is 9th in the championship coming into this. He's got ahead of both of the Porsche drivers. He's only 10 points behind Lucas de Grassi all of a sudden, so that was a really big win for him yesterday. He's only 15 points behind Nick de Vries. Now, the way qualifying works is you go out you have to do a lap time in the first 6 minutes, then a lap time in the second 6 minutes of this 12-minute session. The top 4 go through to the qualifying duels. And then we do the same with the other half of the grid, the other 11. And then the duels begin, the knockout rounds. Van Doorn waiting in the pits. Sergio Techeetah has made his way out onto the track. Stoffel Vandoorne is the championship leader, 24 points now, clear of Mitch Evans. He has scored points in every race bar Mexico City this year, where he had contact earlier on, or towards the end of the race, which turned him around and saw him finish outside of the points. Every other race he's scored. Only one win in Monaco, but he is the man leading the championship. Evans is up into second place, highest position he's been so far this season. And here's Sergio Techeetah. What a day it was for him yesterday, Dario. It looked like surely he was finally going to score some points, but alas.
Yeah, it absolutely was, Jack. Right up until the last lap, he did a fantastic job yet again in qualifying and managed to hold on in the Dragon Penske until the very last lap. But I think there was some erroneous information on his dash on the amount of energy he had left, and he thought he was doing a great job with energy, and it turns out that I think it was set wrong potentially, and ran out of energy coming up the east ramp on the last lap, and no points again. But I think Techeetah can do it today. I think he can get those first points on the board.
Well, he had a spin here. His teammate Giovinazzi had a spin there in practice earlier on. Techeetah makes it through, no trouble at all.
You can see the car bouncing. It's quite stiffly sprung today. The track grip level will have changed. The rain really didn't come down anywhere near what we were thinking overnight and this morning. So looks like we've maybe stiffened that car up a little bit and move it a bit more in the bumps through the kink of 14, and as he comes through 15 straight onto the brakes, tries to get it stopped for this tight hairpin. I mean, it looks, the balance of the Dragon Penske car, the grip available, it looks good.
Some great qualifying performances over the course of the season. Sergio Techeetah yesterday was strong. He was 5th on the grid for the second race in New York, 7th on the grid in Berlin. Oh, but he clipped the barrier coming out of the final corner. Does a 14.4 on his first lap.
You think he got it?
I think he got it. Well, the rear right looks okay, so I'm convinced he got it.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, we'll wait and see. There is inside the Dragon garage. As we've got less than 9 minutes on the clock, everybody else has headed back out onto the circuit now. Ian James, team principal of Mercedes EQ, watching his championship leader Stoffel Vandoorne make his way through Custom House and down towards the anchor. Askew across the line to go 4 seconds slower, so I think that was a prep lap for Askew, as Vandoorne backs off to try and give himself a little bit of space. There are a few drops of rain earlier on this morning during free practice, but nothing just yet, and that's something that could mix it up if we do get any drizzle. But we're going to stay with Vandoorne for this lap.
When you guys were doing free practice through, I walked in and it was very few spots of rain, and the weather radar didn't show like anything was coming. So, but that doesn't say it's not going to happen. It's the UK after all. But that would definitely mix things up. You see Vandoorne now launching off turn 22, getting the maximum speed over the start line. They're trying to pick out his braking point. That's when Mitch Evans had his mistake in qualifying yesterday. It's good so far from Stoffel Vandoorne. He's really in a good place, just driving ever so well and full of confidence, which really helps. Grip change now as they head back outside down the concrete ramp. Watch for the compression. Right there. Car didn't really sound like it hit the ground too hard. Back onto the real London city streets now. Turn 9. Yeah, the tyres spin up as he goes over one of the bumps.
Askew puts in an improvement to go to the top on a 13.695. Dennis is 400ths up. We've got Nick de Vries's running clock down there as well, who is just ahead of Vandoorne on the road. Vandoorne, de Vries a 10th down, Vandoorne a 10th down on Askew's time. They're both pretty identical.
Vandoorne's got that lovely buffer in points, but he cannot afford not to qualify well, because it just puts him in the position of not scoring any points today, and you get in the mess of the midfield. And so he wants to. He needs to qualify up front as you know, everybody else is, but he can't back into this championship.
So De Vries goes third fastest, Van Dorn goes third fastest, then ahead of De Vries. Here comes Techeetah, he goes fourth fastest, pushes De Vries out of the top 4. Roland goes up into 5th, gets ahead of De Vries as well. And then Lotterer slots into 7th position. Mortara's down in 9th. Bird goes into 2nd place in the Jaguar. And this is the situation where, okay, that's the first run's done, the first 6 minutes. Set a camera up into 5th position. And this is where you can see how risky it can be, because Dennis is P1, Van Dorn is on the bubble, Mortara is slowest. Is he pushing on this lap? No, he's not. So Mortara, slowest of the drivers on the first run. He hit the wall twice in practice earlier on today.
And this is the banker lap, but you've still, you can have a mistake on this next lap. You can have somebody go off in front of you, cause a yellow flag. You got to slow down. So yeah, he's put himself in a tough position again. Massive lock up. You see the front of the car just bouncing into the hairpin at turn 16.
Returning to the pits now is Jake Dennis and Edo Mortara. So Dennis, Bird, Askew, Van Dorn, the top 4 at the moment. Nice lap from Oliver Askew after a strong race yesterday to 4th after Nick De Vries' penalty.
And a good qualifying session too to really help him out. It's so key. And things are going to tighten up even more today with everybody having that the practice of the race yesterday and the information that gives you. And overnight, all the engineers will be going to town and in the simulators, all kinds of things to perfect the race strategy for today. So if you're starting further back, it's going to be even more difficult to get forward today.
5 minutes on the clock. Everybody returns to the pit lane to go out to do their second run. Change of tyres for everybody. And Dennis, top of the times again. And he just seems to be existing in that confidence land that I'm sure you've been to, and it just seems
quite a nice place.
It seems lovely, yeah.
Yeah, and you actually, at times you can think, well, why is everybody?
What's everyone else doing?
Yeah, and you think, okay, and you've got to, as you get older in your career, you sort of learn to enjoy it a bit more because you know that at some point it's going to suddenly stop, and it's kind of that is not a nice feeling.
Really?
Yeah, but he's just at one with the car, isn't he?
Yeah.
The track is going to change today because the rubber's gone down. The balance of the car will change because of that. It's going to, you probably find the car will understeer a bit more. The front of the car will slide, so you've got to change the settings, the mechanical settings, also the settings of the powertrain to fix that. You can see the rubber just in the braking zone of turn 1, and then we see down into turn 6. Look at the rubber in turn 5 at the top of the hill.
Let's head down to Nikki.
The Rocket Venturi garage, Edo Mortara, quick tyre change, ready to go out. Obviously, he's going to be really frustrated there, losing time, turn 16 with that mistake. But ultimately, I think the atmosphere in the garage is very much one of restart. We've got to forget about what happened yesterday. There was obviously the penalty that Lucas Di Grassi got, the time penalty that Edo Mortara got. So today is a new day. It's a really critical one, not just in the Drivers' Championship, but in the Teams' Championship as well. Incredibly close, those top 3 teams. Venturi just behind Mercedes EQ. So this is going to be a really, really big day for the team, an important qualifying session.
Nikki's in her Rocket Venturi team gear today, by the looks of things, isn't she? Right. And the Rocket Venturi of Mortara is at the front of this. He knows he needs to get a lap on the board. He's down in 11th place. He is in 3rd in the championship now, 5 points behind Mitch Evans. And we're going side by side here, Dennis and Acosta. Everybody on their out lap, trying to get on with the job. 2.5 minutes to go. They want to do an out and a prep by the looks of things, and Mortara's just doing his own thing.
Yeah, and we saw yesterday Pascal Wehrlein missing the checker flag, didn't get to do his proper qualifying run at the end of the session. I don't think we'll see any such problems from Edo Mortara leading the pack at the moment. The guys at the back, they're hoping the track conditions improve fractionally for them, which is why they're taking that risk. But Mortara not interested in taking that risk, and he just wants to get out and have a clean lap.
Right, here comes Eduardo Mortara. Big lap for him. If he doesn't make it through to the duels, he's going to be in a bit of trouble as far as the championship is concerned. He's doing a prep lap now, and then he will do his full power lap. Well, no, still at 220 kilowatts, but full speed lap, let's say, on the next lap through.
trying to get the tyres up to pressure, up to temperature, get them in balance front to rear. So that's what the work of this lap, and he's going to rely on his team to tell him if anybody's behind him on a full qualifying lap. But looking at the split times right now, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's preparing. You see Oliver Askew.
Roland out there, set the camera in the number 7 Dragon, and this is where it's going to get squabbly.
A man on form, Jake Dennis. You see him in the number 27 Avalanche Andretti car.
Bird's at the back of the queue. Second quickest at the moment, Sam Bird. Hasn't been through to the duels all that often this season. Only 3 occasions into the quarterfinals. And how he would love a strong result at his home race.
I'd like to get a lap in at his home race.
Well, yeah.
Crikey, yesterday yet again in the British round. He didn't even get the first lap done. See Mortara heading off now. This is it. It's got to be on the limit, but don't step over it or it's all over.
Here we go then. Mortara into Victoria and Albert at turns 1 and 2. Van Dorn is in the traffic towards the back, so he'll be losing a little bit of temperature, a little bit of brake temperature. Not ideal. Mortara will get his first sector split in a moment as he comes up towards turn 9 at Sandstone. It's the fastest first sector of the session so far. 400s up on Jake Dennis. Mortara in the groove in the first third of the lap, but Askew has gone quicker than him. So has Max Günther in sector 1. So Mortara could be in trouble here. The track improving rapidly. Through Custom House and then down towards the anchor. Dennis has gone quick in sector 1 as well. It's still Günther who has the best first sector, and Mortara is a 10th down on Dennis after the middle sector. Trouble.
He knows that he's in trouble, and he's going to have to take some more risk through these next series of corners. 19, look at him hammering the curb. 20, brake later than you ever have into 21, just trying to make up some time.
This could be somewhere near the back of the grid for Edo Mortara. Comes out and across the line, takes the checkered flag, and he's not through. Mortara is not through to the duels. Askew goes to the top of the times on a 13.4. Günther slots into second place. Here comes Oliver Rowland in the Mahindra, and he goes up into third. Jake Dennis is knocked down to fourth, but he's still on a lap. Sergio Camera only goes eighth. No repeat of his qualifying heroics. What is Stoffel Van Dorn up to? Van Dorn's a quarter of a second away. Van Dorn could be in trouble. Comes across the line now. De Vries goes up into second place. Van Dorn is going to come out of the final corner behind Da Costa, who goes up into second. Dennis to the top. Van Dorn, 7th. The championship leader doesn't make it. Bird is 8th, but Van Dorn will be on the 7th row of the grid. Ahead of Mortara, but a long way off the pace. And that is not how things wanted to go for Ian James. Roger Griffiths happy as ever. Dennis through and Askew through. DS Techeetah through with Antonio Felix da Costa. Venturi out with Mortara.
Oh dear. That has really put the cat amongst the pigeons, hasn't it? Because now Van Dorn's in that point of the grid.
Yeah.
Where
the jungle,
where they're coming at you from all angles, behind, in front, beside, on top of. Just what the Mercedes EQ team did not want to see with championship leader Stoffel Van Dorn.
Gosh, golly gosh. And that, for Van Dorn, is only the 3rd time this season that he has failed to advance through to the duels. Dennis, P1 again. Man's flying. Da Costa 2nd. De Vries 3rd. Askew 4th. Günther in 5th. Roland Van Dorn, Bird, Mortara, Sete Camera and Lotterer, the 11 drivers. Well. Just when you think Mercedes are looking kind of invincible, you know? Like they were, I was ready to hand Van Dorn the trophy. I don't have the trophy, but if I did, I was ready to hand it to him. But now, 7th row of the grid.
Just look at the gap between Van Dorn and Askew, who made it less than 0.2 of a second.
Yeah.
That can be the difference. The margins are so fine, and the drivers are talking more and more about the pressure they are under. Every lap they do, qualifying, every lap in the race. Wow. That's huge.
Yeah. Well, we'll be moving on to qualifying Group B in a few moments' time. Lotterer slowest in the end in the in the Porsche. But there is Mortara returning to the garage. Third in the championship, Edo Mortara. And he goes to get Wade. But that will be a very frustrating moment indeed for Edo Mortara, after the same thing happened yesterday. Didn't manage to make it through and qualified 9th on the grid. In fact, Edo hasn't been into the duels now in the last 4 races. He was pole in Berlin. Van Dorn having a chat with Stephen Lane. So we believe that Van Dorn locked up at turn 1, and Van Dorn was saying, I think just then, about the last corner. Well, here we go. Stoffel Van Dorn.
Oh, yeah.
Evansed it from yesterday.
Exactly. Watch as soon as he touches the brake pedal. He did a great job to keep it all together. He probably lost a 10th there. I mean, that's maybe most of the disadvantage he had.
Right, qualifying Group B. Evans and Verne. What a big opportunity for those two now. Freitz, Degrassi, Verline, Cassidy, Buemi, Sims, Turvey, Ticktum and Giovinazzi. The other drivers in Group B. So qualifying Group B about to get underway in now. And we will see whether Mitch Evans and Jean-Eric Verne can capitalise on Van Dorn and Mortara both failing to advance through to the duels. Big moment this for Evans. 3 pole positions in his Formula E career. His last one coming in Monaco. Won 5 duels. 1 final appearance, which was in Monaco. 2nd in the championship, 149 points, 24 off the back of Van Dorn. And this is huge for Evans. This is huge to get if he gets into the duels.
Yeah, he thought probably much like we did. Jeez, he's getting away, and now he's been presented with not an open goal, but he's got a chance. This is yeah, but he has got to execute now. It's not an open goal. It's not a gimme. He's got to execute a perfect qualifying lap to get the Jaguar up into the duels, and then progress to close to the front of the grid, because he's going to need to be putting the big numbers on the board. He's going to be needing to be putting 25 points for a race win on the board, not 10 points for 5th place. That's not going to get the job done, I don't think. That's not going to close the gap quickly enough to Stoffel Van Dorn and the Mercedes. And don't rule out Stoffel Van Dorn making a big charge through the field today.
But, I mean, Degrassi did come from the back to 9th position, didn't he? And look at the clouds looming over London there in the background.
And that's from the west, which is generally the direction the weather comes from.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I never really knew that. 10 minutes to go. There's Antonio Giovinazzi starting his lap. He went out first. And everybody else on their out lap now. The other thing with this group, and I know we've had this discussion before about easy and hard groups. I don't see Evans, Verne could get through. Freitz, Degrassi, Verline, I think there's only 6 drivers who I would, in this group, who I would back to get through into the duels and the 4.
That other one was a bit stacked, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't think, Buemi, Sims, Turvey, Ticktum, Giovinazzi would all be quite a big surprise if they didn't make it through. Askew will be investigated after the session for crossing the pit exit line down at Andretti. I would. Well, we'll see. I don't want to second guess what penalty that could be, because
did he gain an advantage?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it could be a fine or something potentially, or it could end up as a grid drop. But we'll leave that one to the stewards. Well, we leave them all to the stewards. It's not like we get.
They don't really listen to us, do they?
No, not very much.
Or pity, we'd fix it.
Giovinazzi across the line of 14.6 for the Italian, who hit the wall yesterday in qualifying and said it was a bit of a shame because he had some pace, he thought, yesterday, and indeed he did, but hit the wall and didn't qualify particularly well. We'll see whether he can do any better today. Oliver Turvey in the Neo, Neo were a team I was maybe thinking we might see a bit more from over one lap over the course of the weekend, but we haven't really yet. Neo and Turvey and Ticheetah.
No, absolutely not. Both home drivers. You know, the energy demands of this race, it doesn't. The inefficiency of some of the powertrains doesn't show up as much at this race because it's not a very energy-hungry race. So I was expecting to see them maybe fight a bit more yesterday, but the pace unfortunately just wasn't there. We got a bit of a rush hour. Everybody coming back into the XL up the east ramp.
Verline down towards turn 1. Verline didn't miss the flag yesterday. He was just going so slowly he decided to pit instead.
Ah, okay.
So they didn't miss the checkered flag. They were keen not to miss the checkered flag. That's why they went out early, so they didn't risk missing it. But Verline was so far down on his delta after the middle sector that they decided to pit anyway.
Apologies to Porsche.
Yeah, apologies. Evans through the Sunborn complex. Now the other side through the right-hander onto Sandstone Lane and down towards Custom House.
Degrassi's a little bit up on Evans at the moment. This is 10-11. It's such a bravery corner. You've got to be super accurate, but you can really float some speed through there.
It's just their banker laps, as it were, in this session. Giovinazzi is the lap time to beat at the moment. Most are beating it. In fact, Oliver Turvey's just beaten it by half a second or so. But we are going to see some quicker laps coming in than that. Verne has just done the fastest middle sector of anyone, so you can we're on board with the Frenchman now.
I've got to say that the DS Techeetah put its power down so much better than the Jaguar of Mitch Evans that was back on screen now. This is turn 21 and coming to the final corner, 22.
Degrassi's at the top of the times currently for the Venturi team. Evans slots into 4th place. Not a majestic lap from Evans. Cassidy goes up into 2nd. Verne goes up into 3rd. So Evans drops down into 6th position. Freitz now gets up into 6th. It's a good result that for Jean-Eric Verne. Evans down in 7th spot after everyone has done their first banker run. So it's all on the next lap for Evans. 4 tenths away from Degrassi. Degrassi and Cassidy in a bit of a league of their own at the front.
You think about the pressure Mitch Evans is facing, all the drivers facing right now, but got to come back in the pits and he's got to think about this absolutely perfect lap. The car is leaving the ground, the bumps are so big, he's got to be inch perfect through the chicane, float as much speed as he possibly can. Half a mile an hour too much, he's going to crash. Half a mile an hour too slow, he's out of it.
Evans on the radio says, "I'm just slow."
Oh goody, that's not what the team want to hear. And that's when you're like, okay Mitch, yeah, get it. What do we need to fix? How do we go faster? We've got 5 minutes 53 seconds till the end of this qualifying session. What can we do? How can we make this better? How can we get into the duels and keep your championship hopes alive?
Degrassi returns to the pit lane. And I mean, but the thing is realistic, that there's nothing much they can really do, because the cars are in parc ferme, aren't they, once qualifying starts?
Pressures, they can change the settings on the powertrain a little bit.
There's the engineering gang at Mercedes. Van Dorn.
This is the hard bit, because you're trying to do a debrief for your engineers, but you're also watching the second group, seeing what's going on.
5 minutes and 14 seconds remaining as they get wheeled back into the garage. Let's head down to Nicky.
Well, joining me now is the team principal of Ian James. A fair amount of pressure coming into today's race. I mean, Stoffel Vandoorne has set himself up in a brilliant position for this sort of championship title fight, but qualifying, he's going to really struggle now today.
Yeah, no, maybe not quite such a brilliant position in terms of today's race at the moment. We saw how difficult it is around this track, especially if you're in that mid-pack. It really does get quite chaotic. So, yeah, we're going to have to rethink our strategy a little bit for today. It's a real shame, because actually the lap, if you take away the mistake going into turn 1, looked fantastic and could have been a really strong lap. But we've got Nick there, so still all to play for.
And, you know, again, as much as the driver championship is absolutely critical, so is the team's championship. So to have Nick up there is super important.
It is. I mean, we've still got the 3 races ahead of us, and there's a huge amount of work to do. So despite the position at the moment, I think it's going to go down to the wire in Seoul, as it always has done in the past in Formula E, and I wouldn't expect anything different, to be honest with you. So we're just concentrating on it race by race and making sure that we can maximise the points.
Right, well, Ian James, thank you very much, and good luck for the race later. There we are, Ian James for Mercedes EQ.
Thank you, Nicky. So Yep, frustrating for Van Dorn, but De Vries making it through. Now out goes Cassidy, second at the moment. Managed to make it through to the duels yesterday. Freitz, his teammate, didn't. I think he might have hit the wall in his duel, Cassidy. I think he told me yesterday.
He did. Yeah, I think he did. A couple of guys brushed the wall.
Yeah.
Cassidy had a great race, though, didn't he? Fighting his way through the field.
And a shame he couldn't stand on the podium in the end, even though he was given the podium position ultimately, because of the penalty for Nick De Vries. De Vries and Da Costa have the best qualifying average over the course of the season, 6.7 for both of them. 3 minutes and 5 seconds on the clock. So, big lap incoming for the Jaguar of Mitch Evans. Verne, who's at the front of the queue there in the DS Techeetah, looking good, but Evans here, who's at the back, needs a big one. And he just, can he keep the temperatures and everything going into the first corner? Because I think that's what Van Dorn was saying, wasn't he? I might be wrong, but that was my sort of summation, was that he was saying he had to slow down so much at the final corner to get a gap that he had no temperature upon arrival at turn 1.
I wonder if that was brake temperature.
Yeah.
Much his tyre, yeah. Exactly right. And turn 1's such a commitment corner, and this surface that you see Nick Cassidy going down is like sandpaper. So you brake so much later than you would normally on a traditional asphalt surface. So the margin for error is 0. And you've got to thread the needle through 1, because the exit of 1 is the apex of 2.
First corner. Little look to the inside from Robin Freitz. Evans at the back here. Needs a big lap. How were you when you needed a big lap? Were you able to put it out of your mind?
Yeah, that was one of the few things I was actually good at.
Really?
Yeah.
You could just be like, I'm just going to do a lap like normal.
Yeah.
Really?
It was that, yeah.
You're amazing. You're actually amazing.
Yeah, everybody's got one gift in life, and I think that might be mine.
A minute and a half to go, but that time is fairly irrelevant.
Well, thanks for the compliment, though, Jack.
No problem at all. Anytime. There is James Rossiter. Big moment as well for Jean-Eric Verne, because he's adrift, 45 points away. But if he wins the race and Van Dorn doesn't score, suddenly that's 20 points, and it's not impossible going to say. It's still tough. But if Verne doesn't get through to the duels, I think his championship's over.
Absolutely, but you can never give up. We've learned one thing in motor racing: you never give up, because you never know what is going to happen.
Here we go then, big laps incoming. Van Dorn in the debrief, but keeping an eye on his title contenders and his main championship rivals. Jean-Eric Verne is the first of them to start a lap in the DS Techeetah. Down towards turn 1 now at Victoria and Albert. And then the other one will be Mitch Evans at the back of the queue. Lucas de Grassi across the line. Then it is Alexander Sims. Cassidy's done a very quick first sector. De Grassi through the first couple of corners. Evans! Oh, okay, he's backing off. Sorry, everybody. I thought he'd slowed down. I thought he was grinding to a halt, but here he is now, starting his flying lap down towards turn 1.
And that was where it all went wrong yesterday, turn 1.
Verne,
quick, very quick. 1.3 tenths up through that first sector.
De Grassi is quicker than Verne in the first sector, though. Verline is not really improving, nor is Sebastian Buemi. De Grassi, Cassidy and Verne are the 3 at the moment. Tichtum and Sims have done decent sector 1s as well. Here comes Verne through the middle sector. He's now a quarter of a second up. This is more like it for Jean-Eric Verne. And De Grassi is also 3 tenths up. So Verne and De Grassi are the 2 quick drivers on track at the moment. Evans' sector 1 is okay. 500ths up on the quickest first sector so far. Verne through the final corner. Checker flag falls. It's 3rd for Verne. That's sketchy. Here comes De Grassi. Tichtum goes up into 5th place. De Grassi improves on his lap time, stays at the top of the times. But Verne is in 3rd position. What's Buemi doing? Nothing. What's Evans doing? Oh, he's all right. He's 800ths away. De Grassi's lap actually is huge. He's 4 tenths ahead. It's going to be Verne or Evans. Verne or Evans will be eliminated and not going through to the duels. Who is through? Oh, it's Verne. Evans doesn't make it. It's 6th for Jaguar. It's 6th for Jaguar. Oh, Verne's out as well. Antonio Giovinazzi's turned up this season. 2nd place for the Dragon Penske driver. DS Techeetah knocked out. So
Didn't see that one coming.
Do we have none of our top 4 in the championship in the duels? Right? Right.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Then they're just thinking, ah,
happy days.
All right, life's not so bad.
Wow.
Twists and turns.
Giovinazzi, Cassidy, Buemi in the Nissan. Making it through.
Giovinazzi, it's great to see him finally showing the pace that we know he has.
The pain in the Jaguar garage. Evans will be on the 7th row of the grid alongside Van Dorn, right? Yeah. They'll be on the same row. Vern couldn't pull it out the bag.
See all the tape on Da Costa's hand. And Evans got a bit of oversteer right there on his qualifying lap just as he hit the curb in turn 19.
Degrassi with a great lap. Something that Mortara couldn't replicate in the other Venturi.
And Degrassi was quick yesterday. He got that penalty, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you're right. He was quickest in his group, wasn't he? Yeah. Wow. Well, this is what keeps sort of happening, is that every time it seems like it's a sort of open goal for someone, it then disappears, you know? Absolutely remarkable qualifying here in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Degrassi, Giovinazzi, Cassidy and Buemi are the drivers that will advance through to the duels. Vern on the 5th row of the grid. Verline on the 6th row. Mitch Evans on the 7th row of the grid. It was less than a 10th that he missed out on. Duels coming up next. Giovinazzi, it says on the timing screen, is getting his lap times deleted for lap 4 and 5.
But his fast lap was 8.
Yeah.
So we should be all right.
But does that mean he didn't set a lap in the first 6 minutes if they're deleted? Nothing's changed yet on the timing screens. Giovinazzi's still there in 2nd place.
But his out lap or his prep lap would count, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think
we're all right.
Yeah.
I think Giovinazzi's all right.
Yeah, I don't know what that's for or why that is.
That feeling when you look at the timing screen and you're out, you haven't qualified well. Ugh. See Stoffel Van Dorn talking on the intercom system. Stephen Lane doesn't have the headset on.
Degrassi, Giovinazzi, Cassidy and Buemi, the 4 that will advance through at the moment. And like I say, it's just amazing that these front runners aren't getting into the duels.
It shows how close it is, Jack.
Yeah, Van Dorn has only missed out twice all season. Mitch Evans actually hasn't been in that regularly this year. He's kind of hit and miss, to be honest, over the last few races. Mortara, like I say, first, 4th, 2nd in qualifying, 4 races in a row, and then not been in it for the last 4. And then Vern as well. He was in the duels all but 2 times until New York, and then he hasn't been in since. Everybody's just falling away when it matters. Crumbling.
But watching the fight back, particularly from Evans today, I think Evans going to be leading the charge. And if I was Stoffel Van Dorn, I'd let Evans batter his way through there, and I'd just sit behind him and take advantage and follow him through.
What, you're a wise man.
Well, it's been said once.
So, Da Costa getting ready for the duels. It'll be Buemi versus Dennis in the quarterfinal. Cassidy versus Da Costa. There is Evans making his way back. De Vries versus Giovinazzi. And Askew against Degrassi. But just tough for these front runners. And they had big opportunities, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a big opportunity for Jake Dennis in the first duel to get up front again for today and try and replicate what he did yesterday.
Yeah. So Degrassi rolled back into the garage. So about to get going for the duels. in qualifying for round 14 of the Formula E World Championship. It'll be Sebastian Buemi versus yesterday's winner, Jake Dennis. Nick Cassidy, third yesterday, up against Antonio Felix da Costa. Nick De Vries against Antonio Giovinazzi, who will be in his first duel. And then Askew against Degrassi in the final quarter-final. Winners through to the semis, semis through to the final. Winner of the final, the Julius Baer Pole Position for round 14 of 16. Really getting towards the business end of the season. 3 points as well up for grabs, but that doesn't really matter because none of these drivers they'll all want it, but they're not in the championship contention, so it's not going to change anything up at the top. Dennis, for those of you, if Dennis won today, he would then be on 100 points, and he'd then be, even if none of the other ones scored, he'd still be 73 points behind the championship leader. So even though Dennis is absolutely flying, he can't mount some late championship charge out of nowhere. As Roger Griffiths watches on. Up against Sebastian Buemi in the Nissan. Good lap, to be fair, from Buemi, the man with the second most poles in Formula E history. And he is going to be out in the first quarter-final here in Formula E. Sebastian Buemi for the Nissan Edams team up against Jake Dennis, yesterday's race winner for Avalanche Andretti.
I love the new duel format in qualifying. I think it's unique in motorsport, and I can't wait to be part of it.
You know, the pressure on that one lap is super intense. You know, you've only got that one opportunity, that one take, and you know, if you make a mistake, then it's all over.
Third duel appearance for Sebastian Buemi this season. It is the 7th for Jake Dennis. Driver's eye with Buemi on his outlap. It's just an outlap and a push. Stefan Sarazan, the reserve driver at Nissan and development driver. Former Formula E racer as well. Don't think he ever won a Formula E. No, he never won a Formula E race. Had a pole position, I think, in London.
Yeah, he's raced all types of car and been quick in them all.
Yeah.
Uniquely talented, I think. He's got that sort of, I say uniquely, it's incredible what he's able to drive and go quick in. Sebastian Buemi was the qualifying meister of Formula E, and the form recently hasn't been quite there for him or the Nissan team, so looking to get back up there today.
So a place in the semi-final up for grabs, a place on the front 2 rows of the grid. That's how big these quarterfinals are, because semi-finals onwards, they're important and they decide the grid, and they're fantastic. But this, you can be pole or 8th, can depend on your quarterfinals.
It's tough, I mean, really tough for the drivers, because they don't only have to do one qualifying lap now, they've got to do multiples. They want to get the pole position, and the car's at a different power level now, up to 250 kilowatts of power. They were at 220, so 13% increase. So he's going to be arriving at turn 1 a lot quicker than he was a couple of minutes ago.
Here comes Buemi down towards the first corner. He will start his lap first. Dennis will be out on his lap in a moment time, and then we will keep an eye on their lap times. Here is Dennis starting his lap now, down towards turn 1. The cheers for him as he comes into Victoria and Albert and makes his way around the circuit, and he's 800ths up on Sebastian Buemi. We're on board with Dennis now. Down the hill into the chicane at the Sunborn complex.
Just locked ever so slightly going into turn 6.
Buemi is through Custom House, in and out, and he's now over a 10th down on Jake Dennis. Onto the brakes, into the anchor. A 10th and a half now, Dennis's advantage. It's now almost 3/10 of a second. This is looking good for Dennis as he comes into the anchor.
So late into turn 16, but it's fully under control. Jake Dennis, I think he wishes every race was on this circuit. Unbelievable.
It's a remarkable performance again from Jake Dennis. Across the line comes Sebastian Buemi. He does a 1 minute 13.197, but surely Dennis is going to beat that. He's now over 4/10 up on Buemi through the final corner, and Dennis is through to the quarters. A 1 minute 12.6. Jake Dennis into the semi-finals.
A man on form.
Never in doubt, was it?
I think we've proven today anything is possible.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
Crikey, but yeah, just mighty performance there again.
Cassidy versus DaCosta next. The Envision versus the DS Techeetah. They've faced each other once before. And Cassidy took the win in that one. 2 poles in a row in New York City for Cassidy. Yesterday, he was eliminated in the quarter-final stage. See what he's got here, the New Zealander. There is the Envision team watching their man come down towards turn 1. With little lock-up into the first corner.
A bit wide, I would say. Not in turn 1, but turn 2. That's where it affected him.
And here comes DaCosta now to start his lap. Across the line and down towards turn 1. Much better.
The DS Techeetah didn't dive as much as we saw the Envision cover. Gee, nearly 3/10, and I think that's that mistake from Cassidy at turn 1 too complex. He's got to try now to push that bit harder to make up for it, and he really is.
He's got his work cut out if he wants to get through. Maybe not particularly neat on the exit of Custom House either. The gap goes to half a second now. This is looking good for DaCosta. We're on board with Cassidy coming into the anchor. Still half a second.
You see him pushing, trying to make that time up.
Gained a little. Gap's down to 0.4 of a second.
DaCosta can still make a mistake, so you've got to keep pushing if you're Cassidy.
Cassidy into the final corner across the line, and it is a 1 minute 13.490 for Cassidy. That is comfortably slower than Buemi's time, so he'll be behind Buemi on the grid if he gets knocked out here by Antonio Felix DaCosta. Neat and tidy through the final couple of corners for the Portuguese, and he does beat Cassidy by half a second, a 13-0, which was half a second slower than Dennis, 4/10?
4/10 slower than Dennis.
DaCosta is through to the semi-finals, where he will face Jake Dennis.
That's not something you want to be doing this weekend, I would say.
No, exactly. Mercedes EQ next up, because it is Nick De Vries versus Antonio Giovinazzi for the Dragon Penske Autosport team. De Vries will start the lap first, and we'll see what Giovinazzi can do. I'm excited that Giovinazzi's in the duels.
Yeah, good to see.
De Vries down towards the turn 1 and 2 at Victoria and Albert, onto the brakes. Few goes at getting it in.
Yeah, absolutely. No dive at all from the front of the Mercedes EQ car. He's keeping that rhythm up through 2, 3, 4. The grip level changes right in the middle of turn 4. It's pretty interesting.
Here comes Gio.
A little bit of a cheer from the crowd.
Yeah, the man's a legend. And he's only 100th down on De Vries after the first couple of corners. Looped it there in practice earlier on. Throws it into the Sunborn complex.
He carried some speed through 6.
Here he comes up towards turn 9. Gio's ahead. Coming out onto Sandstone. Nick De Vries is now coming into the anchor. Closes the gap a little bit. Huge lock-up. And...
got it.
Whoa, got it in.
Style points for De Vries, but he's still behind Giovinazzi. Now 1/1000th of a second, isn't it?
This is so close between De Vries and Giovinazzi. De Vries is ahead by 200ths, but Giovinazzi is now much more neat and tidy through the anchor than De Vries was. Is that going to jump him up ahead? De Vries comes out of the final corner, sets the benchmark time. It's a 13-0. Giovinazzi's ahead by over a 10th. Giovinazzi, who has no points so far this season, has not been through to the duels at all this year, comes across the line, and it's the semi-finals for Gio. Motorway buzzing. Antonio Giovinazzi into the semi-finals. Amazing. Wow.
Crikey.
That was great. What a great lap from Giovinazzi.
0 right up there on the pace with the other guys.
Yeah.
The only outlier so far, surprisingly, is Jake Dennis with that 1 minute 12.6.
Quarterfinal 4, Oliver Askew for the Avalanche Andretti team against Lucas de Grassi for Rocket Venturi Racing. Askew yesterday, 5th on the grid. 2 quarterfinal appearances for the Andretti driver. Never made it through to the semis yet. It's going to be a tough ask against de Grassi, who's in very, very quick form. Let's see what Askew can do.
Early turn into 1, but looks good, carried good speed. I mean, de Grassi's group qualifying lap was mighty. Let's see if he can replicate it at 250 kilowatts of power.
Right up to the wall on the apex of 2. De Grassi's over a 10th up after the first couple of corners. Really lovely from de Grassi.
Yeah, that's a big advantage, isn't it, for Askew to come back and to claw that back, especially when de Grassi's on such form.
Oh, he's slowing.
Yeah.
He hit the wall. There's
looks
damage
like
on the left-hand side.
You can see some of the barrier.
Yeah, he's got some barrier there, and de Grassi will come past him. And the steering wheel is left-hand down, so de Grassi now knows he can just cruise around. This is the first time we've had someone crash out of the duels all season.
But de Grassi wants to be ahead of the in case. Well, there you go. De Grassi's getting a round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got a feel for Askew.
De Grassi now into the final couple of corners.
Still pushing on.
Yeah, he's not chilling.
Good information for the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Round.
Through the final corner comes de Grassi, out across the line, and does 1 minute 12.6. Big lap from de Grassi. Big lap. Huge pace, and that is comparable with Dennis. That is a marker laid down.
Oh dear.
This is a Dennis de Grassi final written all over it, surely, with the pace that those two have. But you can't discount Da Costa and Giovinazzi. There is the Andretti team. There is the Venturi team. Lucas de Grassi, 1 minute 12.686. And he through to the semi-finals. De Grassi's best qualifying this season. 3rd on the grid in New York City. So he's never actually made it into the final, de Grassi. Hasn't had a pole position since the final race of season 3. Montreal in 2017.
Somewhat overshadowed by Mortara this year, de Grassi.
Yeah, absolutely.
For de Grassi's first year at the Rocket Venturi team.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I say that was his last pole. I said it once, and then I got told off because he did get that pole in Santiago in season 5, but was then disqualified from qualifying. So it doesn't count, but he did qualify on pole before.
Did Lucas tell you off?
I think it was McNish last time when he was with us. Right, Dennis beat Buemi, Da Costa beat Cassidy. They will face each other in the semi-final. Giovinazzi beat Nick de Vries. De Grassi beat Askew. And they will face each other in the semi-finals. So, here's a look at what happened with Nick de Vries. Huge lockup coming into the anchor. And I think that's what caught, he lost that sort of 10th or so to Giovinazzi around this point.
But he did a good job in that he braked late, he carried his speed in, and he was able to get the car to the apex. I don't know if the problem happened more around him at the apex point or further around the lap, but it looked worse than it potentially was, I would say.
He locked up every lap there yesterday, didn't he, it felt like?
He really did.
Let's head down to the pit lane. Radzi.
Absolutely incredible qualification group. Delighted to join by James Bartley from Jaguar TCS Rating. James, massive disappointment for Mitch, but that was unbelievably close.
Yeah, it seems like the grid's a bit upside down again today. It was very close, but honestly, we just ultimately didn't have the lap time there. So quite a unique circuit, and we haven't just got the car in the window. That's the reality. But we had really strong race pace yesterday, and that's got to be the focus, right? This championship is about how you end the day, not how you start the day. So we've got to get our heads down in the race now. We're the championship kind of protagonists all around each other, so it's going to be an exciting race, and that's got to be the focus now.
What does this mean for the actual race itself, and in terms from a pressure standpoint? Because I can't imagine what it's like to be a driver in this.
Honestly, it's just, you have to just remain calm, right? You have to take each next step of the day as it comes. This is Formula E. It has roller coasters from the first season to now, right? And of course, as the pressure ramps up, but ultimately, it's comes down to how you end the race. And we've had great race pace yesterday, a phenomenal race from Mitch, and that's going to be our focus, trying to take that positivity and that benefit we had yesterday into today's race.
Have a brilliant race.
Thank you, thanks.
So great to hear from James Barclay there. And we are about to get going with the semi-finals. Giovinazzi will be out. Here's what happened to Oliver Askew.
Through 6, got a bit wide.
Oh!
Yeah, he slid the back end out exit to 7 and just caught the wall in 8. Gotta hope that hasn't damaged the gearbox. The transmission, should I say. The differential, that's all made out of carbon fibre. And that kind of hit can push the drive shaft through the casing.
Jake Dennis,
Man on
winner.
form.
Yeah, absolutely. Winner of the race yesterday, pole position as well, and the quickest lap time again in the quarterfinals, and this was it.
Starting the lap, slightly different line because you're maximising again the speed. He's crossed already the start of the lap. Heavy on the brakes, you can see the rubber built up from yesterday. Back over to the right. He didn't really go all the way back to the right to enter turn 3. So neat, tidy through 5, so patient. Here's where Askew had his issue. Back to the throttle out of 9, so under control. Not pushing the limits in the wrong places. Back to the throttle, get the car stabilised through 10, 11, 12. Neat, tidy through 13. Here, hitting the ground and then leaving the ground through the kinks, 14, 15. So easy through 16 now. And I say easy, it's just because he's driving so well. Watch how much curb he uses in turn 19 here, the left-hander. Not a massive amount, actually, just kissed it a bit. Now he's coming to the end of the lap, back indoors, lots of grip again. You see how much the car turned when it went onto the indoor surface. Back to throttle with a run to the line, and that's the lap. You're willing the car to that finish line to break the timing beam and give you your time.
Well, now he's just got to do it 2 more times, and then it's another pole for Jake Dennis. Getting ready to head out onto the circuit. Just a couple of moments until the semi-finals get underway. So let's hear from some of the drivers knocked out in the quarters with Nicky.
Joining me now is Nick Cassidy. Nick, just missed out there on getting through, but starting from P7, after yesterday's promotion onto the podium, things are looking good here in London for you.
Yeah, I think you know, New York onwards, we've found definitely something, and I've been pretty strong. But I'm trying to smile. I'm gutted. Like we had such a good car yesterday, and I did a good job in the groups, and I did the same again today. But the 2 duels I've messed up, so that's on me. Hand up, and got to race forward again.
How like, I suppose stressful is it for you in the car, the pressure when you know that you have to put in the perfect lap, and also going up against the likes of Da Costa, who's done this many times before?
Yeah, for sure there's that. But at the same time, it's also a different situation because you go into the duel with a slightly hot tyre, the car balance changes, the settings change, and I think, yeah, I probably didn't quite nail that today, and I locked the front into turn 1, and against a guy like Antonio, you're never going to catch back a mistake. So from there, I knew it was going to be pretty tough.
Well, thanks very much. Good luck for the race, Nick Cassidy.
So frustrated, Nick Cassidy, that he's got a good car, but made a mistake in both of his quarterfinals. Da Costa getting ready to head out. The champion from season 6, 2019-20 season. And just a couple of moments away from those semi-finals beginning. Da Costa versus Dennis is going to be an interesting fight. Neither in real title, or neither in title contention, to be honest. I mean, if Da Costa won, he could get ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne today. To be honest, it's quite remarkable. If he takes the pole and the win, and Vergne actually doesn't score any points, Da Costa would be ahead of his teammate, which would be quite impressive. Da Costa making his way to the end of the pit lane. Dennis following him out. They're guaranteed a place on the front 2 rows. The winner of this duel will be starting on the front row of the grid for the London E-Prix. This is where we're at the moment, into the semi-finals. And Dennis, Da Costa, Giovinazzi and Di Grassi are the 4 drivers that are making it through. Da Costa versus Dennis, Giovinazzi versus Di Grassi. They will be the front 2 rows of the grid, but in which order is what is going to be decided in the next few moments. It was almost 3/10 of a second, sorry, it was more than 3/10 of a second that Dennis was quicker than Da Costa in the quarterfinals. Semi-final number 1, Antonio Felix Da Costa for DS Techeetah, facing Jake Dennis for Avalanche Andretti.
This is it. There's no better feeling in the world than smashing out a good quali lap, so here we go.
I absolutely love qualifying because it's the one time, you know, where we get to go absolutely flat out, leave nothing on the table, and, you know, really push these cars to the absolute limit.
Pit lane open. Da Costa heads out onto the circuit. So far this season, Dennis has 1 pole. Da Costa has 1 pole, which he took in Marrakesh. He's been on the front row of the grid in 3 of the last 5 races, Antonio Felix Da Costa, but we know who the crowd's favourite is.
Yeah, and if you're Da Costa, though, you're sitting there knowing there was a 3.5 gap, knowing you're going to have to pull something special out of the bag, and you think to yourself, maybe that X turn, I was a little slow through there, I think I can carry a bit more. And again, the risk goes up for Da Costa, where Jake Dennis knows how to do a 12.6.
Yeah.
Da Costa's he's taken a bit of a walk into the unknown here, so where is he going to try and pull that time disadvantage back from?
And are you looking at the other drivers' lap times, do you think, before you go out to know what you're up against?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and that helped. That helped, knowing that he went 4/10 quicker in the first lap. That's helpful to you.
But it shows you the size of the issue ahead. I mean, ultimately, you can only push the maximum of the car. That's the thing. But occasionally in qualifying, there's a little, you can just, you know, wait a second before you brake somewhere. You know, just take that little bit more risk. So let's see. The risk is all Da Costa's right now. The risk Dennis has got is he just cannot replicate what he's done so many times already around here in the London circuit.
The Avalanche Andretti team watching. So are the DS Techeetah squad. And we've got the onboard split here coming down into the first corner. Da Costa on the left, Dennis on the right. The video of Dennis is delayed, and he's up by almost 1/10 after the first couple of corners.
He's just carrying so much speed with the car, and you watch the car's understeering as well, the front of the car sliding on, but he's just able to carry that bit extra speed with it.
Sorry, it's the Da Costa on board that's delayed. He's the one further around the lap, and Dennis is 1/10.5 up now as they come into Custom House. It's almost 2/10 now as they come into the chicanes.
Look at the accuracy from Jake Dennis. I mean, from both of them, really, but Dennis is just floating that bit more speed, nearly 3/10 halfway around the lap.
Into the anchor. Da Costa closes it in a little bit.
Bit cautious from Dennis, and especially through turn 17, that long corner. How much curb is he going to use? Got to be careful not to kind of half clip the curb because it'll push him into the wall at turn 20.
Gap goes up to almost 3/10 of a second. Final corner for Jake Dennis. Out across the line. And Dennis is in the final by almost 4/10. Another 1 minute 12.6.
Metronomic in his consistency.
Same is true of Da Costa, actually. He did a 13.0, which he did in the quarterfinals as well. But Dennis is through to the final. It's going to be another front row start. Evans watching the rest of the duels.
Mitch doesn't look too impressed with it.
No.
Yeah, scrappy from my side, so.
Probably pace up.
Antonio Giovinazzi in the Dragon against Lucas Di Grassi in the Venturi for a place on the front row of the grid for the London E-Prix. It would be mad if it was Giovinazzi on the front row, honestly. But we'll see what he's got. Di Grassi's in great form. Here comes Gio through the final corner, across the line to start a lap. Nicolas Maudouis, the Chief Technical Officer of Dragon, watching the Italian into the turn 1. Getting a big old cheer as Di Grassi in the black Venturi starts his lap down to the first corner.
Good so far. Let's see who's managed to float more speed through that opening sequence of corners.
It's De Grassi.
Wow, nearly 2 tenths.
Really strong from Lucas De Grassi in the Venturi. Here is Giovinazzi out onto Sandstone Lane and the Flying Angel straight into Custom House. Gap goes up a little more. Out of Custom House. Gap goes up a little more. They're pretty even after the first couple of corners.
Giovinazzi, you could hear the car is bottoming out, losing grip with the surface. The tyres coming off the surface. No such problems for De Grassi so far, but he does miss the apex.
Not perfect there from Lucas De Grassi. Here comes Giovinazzi back inside the XL. Through the left-hander, out across the line. And the benchmark time for Giovinazzi is a 12.9. That's a really good lap from Antonio Giovinazzi. It might not be enough, though, to beat Lucas De Grassi across the line, and De Grassi is through. He does a 12.6, but it will be third on the grid for Antonio Giovinazzi.
Great job, Lucas. Great job. Scenario 4 and acknowledge. Scenario 4 and acknowledge.
Something for Venturi to smile about. Third on the grid, though, for Dragon and Giovinazzi. His best result, qualifying-wise, of the season.
This is pretty mixed up, which is good for that man there, Mitch Evans. Looking for a charge through the field this afternoon, trying to keep his championship hopes alive. Both cars have done a 12.6.
Yeah, this is a big final incoming. Dennis looking for his second pole of the weekend. De Grassi looking for his first pole in 5 years.
Jake Dennis, he said scrappy lap, and it did look a couple of times like he clipped a couple of apexes, just didn't quite flow. He's got to flow this lap. He's got to nail it if he wants the 3 points and to start up front like he did yesterday. Because I guarantee you, Lucas De Grassi starts up front. He is going to be hard to pass today.
Here is De Grassi, making his way back into the pit lane after booking himself a place in the final for the first time in this duels format. Third on the grid in New York City a couple of races ago. He's
driving onto the FIA weighbridge.
I think he's messing around, isn't he? Yeah. I couldn't quite tell with his body language, but you could see the smile in his eyes, Da Costa. De Grassi's in such good qualifying form. Third on the grid in New York. Then the next day, he was quickest in his qualifying group before being disqualified. Yesterday, he was quickest in his qualifying group before being disqualified. Today, he is now on the front row because he beat Antonio Giovinazzi in the semi-final. So it will be Dennis versus De Grassi for pole position. 8 thousandths of a second between them in their semi-finals. Absolutely remarkably close. And they're in a class of their own. They're in a class of their own. Another 12.9 from Giovinazzi, which was quickest of anybody bar those two. He is the third quickest driver. JF Thorman, the president of Avalanche Andretti, about to watch the final unfold. Let's catch up with some of the other drivers before we get underway with the final, shall we? Nikki?
Well, Oliver, asked you after a phenomenal performance yesterday, best performance of the season, back in the duels again today, but just a bit of a mistake made in that session.
Yes, been trying to now that I'm in the duels consistently, I've been trying to make it out into the semi-final, and just pushed it a little bit too hard and turned 6-7 and clipped the wall. So that was it. De Grassi got me, but it's good to see Jake continuing. Hopefully he'll get another pole, and yeah, plenty of chances in the race this afternoon. So.
Having a fantastic week for Avalanche Andretti. Great end towards the season.
Yeah, for sure. It all seems to be coming together. The track is suiting me with the higher grip. So as you can see, Giovinazzi is doing really well, making it into the semifinals. So rookie is performing well this weekend, and yeah, looking forward to obviously the next weekend, but first and foremost the race this afternoon.
Yeah, get focused. Nice one. Thanks very much, Oliver Askew.
You mentioned Giovinazzi there. You can see the delight in the Dragon garage for Gio as he makes his way down to get Wade, and hopefully we'll hear from him actually in a minute or two, because he'll be heading down towards where Nicky is.
Interesting what Askew said. He said the rookies are doing better because of increased grip in this circuit, and I think somebody from Askew driving IndyCar, Giovinazzi driving Formula 1, to come into a Formula E car sliding around on street circuits with little downforce has been quite a shock. You see the onboard between Dennis and Degrassi from their semi-finals.
Yes, now these lap times were separated by 0.08 of a second. So I'm interested to see what looks scrappy from your point of view regarding Dennis's lap.
Okay then. So far, so good.
Because it all just seems fine so far.
Oh yeah, so far it's good. So far it's good. Let's see how much speed he floats through here. A little bit of a hit of the curb. Yeah, it's all good so far. Watch what happens as he gets down to turn 16. Does he brake a fraction early? Doing good so far. But then he clips the curb. Just watch when he clips the curb in 19. Watch when he gets to turn the last corner at the apex. Bit of understeer there. Watch the inside curve. That might have just cost him a fraction.
Yeah. About to get going with the final and the battle for pole position in the 14th round of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Jake Dennis, pole and winner yesterday, and he will be facing Lucas Di Grassi in the Venturi.
Jake Dennis said his lap was scrappy. This is a relative term.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Fans outside, yeah, a bit windy. Hopefully the rain doesn't come for their sake. Final coming up in 3 minutes' time.
I can't call this one.
You'd have to be brave to... The guy who got pole yesterday or the guy who got pole 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's got a lot to prove, Lucas Di Grassi. Got disqualified yesterday, and he wants to show he's still got the speed. But yeah, Jake Dennis is definitely a man on form. The Avalanche Andretti guys, the setup works so well on this circuit as well.
So, when you look at the pace that Di Grassi has, very strange that Mortara wasn't able to hook it up.
Different driving styles, different drivers require different things from the car, different feel, different balance front to rear. So that can be such a big difference.
I think Dennis invited more friends today.
I think he probably did.
Do you think after yesterday it's like, right, everybody come down? There were 3 there yesterday.
Yeah, one of his friends I saw yesterday said, oh, I can't be there tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Just why you were here today.
Yeah.
So I love this qualifying format because it's not about one lap. It's about several. It's about the group laps, quarters, semis, final. You just got to keep performing. It's a mean-looking car, isn't it, that Venturi?
Yeah. So just a couple of minutes, 90 seconds or so before the final gets underway. Lunchtime at Mercedes. Stoffel Van Dorn will be starting down on the 7th row of the grid, the championship leader. But none of the others are starting near the front. James Barkley and Phil Charles watching the qualifying session, so are Evans and Bird at the front there. This is where we're at. Dennis beating Buemi, Da Costa beat Cassidy, Giovinazzi knocked out De Vries, and Di Grassi beat Oliver Askew. Semi-final, Dennis versus Da Costa. Di Grassi beat Giovinazzi, and that's how we're here. Look at that, 0.08 of a second. The difference between Dennis and Di Grassi in their semi-final lap. Dennis's semi-final lap was 100th quicker than he managed in the quarter-final, and he is still the final. Dennis versus Di Grassi, Andretti versus Venturi.
My favourite thing about the duel is really the head-to-head competition, you know, not knowing what the other driver is doing during the lap. So you don't know if he's made a mistake or he's on the best lap of his life. You never know.
I handled the pressure of the duel by completely focusing on achieving the best lap time possible.
And Degrassi was quicker than Dennis in the semi-finals. There was only 8 thousandths between them, but Degrassi was quicker. What a weekend Dennis is having, though. This is just wonderful to see the atmosphere here. The light goes green now for Degrassi. Dennis will be first on track. Degrassi will be behind him. And it's also worth noting that if Dennis gets pole, then Van Doorn will be starting 13th on the grid. If Degrassi gets pole, Van Doorn will be starting 14th on the grid. Not a huge difference, but that's how the sides of the grid are decided, by who gets pole, because Dennis was in Group A, Degrassi was in Group B. But it's all about one lap now.
Yeah, and especially in this circuit, because the indoor surface is kind of a uniform grip level. And the guys were saying it's the fastest 0 to 100 kilometers, 0 to 60 time of the season, below 3 seconds. And both sides are equal, really. So it's only about the sort of the car length advantage you would get. Talking about car length, see Jake Dennis coming into turn 21 now, setting up, using the different lines of 22. And it's on.
Dennis fires it across the line, down towards Victoria and Albert at turns 1 and 2. The fight for pole position at the London E-Prix underway.
Lovely so far through 1 and 2, and I bet he can hear the crowd.
Degrassi starts his lap now in the Venturi. We'll get a split after the first couple of corners. Big hit on the curb coming through there.
Bit wider through 2 from Degrassi, 1500s down.
Dropping down the hill into the Sunborn complex. Dennis is coming along into Custom House. There's still 100th between them. Degrassi closed. Degrassi caught him by 3 thousandths. Oh, that's a bit bigger. Almost a 10th now in Dennis's advantage.
Think about it, a 10th of a second. It's a ridiculously small amount of time.
It's over a 10th now. Dennis is hooking this up. Degrassi is chasing him, but he's not closing on him. This is a superlative weekend for Jake Dennis. It's unbelievable, to be perfectly honest. The Andretti driver out of the final corner takes the checkered flag. It's a 12.5. 1 minute 12.535, and Degrassi's made a mistake. It's done. Degrassi out of the final corner. The checkered flag is there. The checkered flag falls. Dennis on pole again.
Ridiculous form from Jake Dennis and the Avalanche Andretti team.
Dennis doubles up in London. Front row, front grid slot again. The Mans are fast this weekend. Van Doorn, the championship leader, will start 13th on the grid. Mitch Evans, frustrated that he's not in the duels either. Degrassi in the end was a second away. He all went in the final sector as Dennis waves to the crowd and secures his second pole position of the season, his second pole position of the weekend. 3 now of his 4 career poles have come in London.
He's put himself in the perfect position to double up on wins again this afternoon here in London.
And he managed it and bossed it so well from the front. Here he comes back into the stadium section. We couldn't use his celebratory radio apparently because lots of bleeping would have been required.
No. Really? Shock.
We were discussing this. I've been chatting about it this morning with some Formula E, but with and everyone's like, oh, can Dennis do it again? And you're like, well, probably not. I just didn't really, because people are going to change, everything's going to change. That's what it means at Andretti, but he's doubled up.
Last year he didn't. He couldn't do it. He qualified 16th, I think, on the second day. Alex Lynn came in for the second home win of the weekend for the British drivers, but to do this, so impressive.
Yeah.
Let's see if he can do it again this afternoon.
It's unbelievable stuff from Dennis. Gets himself weighed. We'll hear from him in a few moments' time. Little pat on the back with Degrassi. Degrassi on the front row of the grid, which is good for him. JF Thorman and the Andretti team. How they'd love to set, because this is the other thing, if you win the first race of the weekend, then you don't really get to celebrate. And then if you have a miserable one on the second race, then you don't probably fancy celebrating. Whereas if you can win on the Sunday, you're in for a big night tonight. So let's hear from the pole sitter. Absolutely phenomenal performance from Jake Dennis. Another pole position. He's talking to Nikki Shields.
Well, Jake Dennis, one word, unstoppable. That was a phenomenal performance. Another pole position here in London.
Yeah, honestly, I'm so overwhelmed just by what we've achieved. You know, double pole here in London, fastest in every session. The lap at the end was honestly one of the best I've ever done in Formula E. So yeah, I knew it was going to be tight with Lucas. We were separated by like 100th in both of our duels. So yeah, I knew I had to deliver everything, and yeah, I did just that. And honestly, the car was absolutely incredible today. We've taken another step forward from yesterday, and yeah, so big thank you to my guys in the garage, and yeah, starting on the front row, so super excited.
But alongside you, you have a very competitive driver, Lucas Degrassi, Season 3 champion. He's not going to make it easy for you. What's the strategy?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit harder race than yesterday, just purely because, you know, Lucas obviously isn't fighting for the championship, so he also doesn't have too much to lose, so we just, you know, do our thing, focus on our own race, and yeah, try and repeat what we did yesterday.
Huge congratulations. Jake Dennis, pole position here in London.
Receives the Julius Baer Pole Position trophy. And 3 points as well in the championship. Takes him up to 79 points. And he's actually only 7 behind Degrassi now, so if he wins, he goes up to 8th in the standings. Da Costa will be starting in 4th on the grid. Antonio Giovinazzi will be 3rd on the grid. But Jake Dennis, I've just said his name so much this weekend, it feels very strange just to keep saying that's Roger Griffiths' reaction. They can't believe it. Super scenes inside Andretti. Evans and Bird in the debrief. Very different vibes at Jaguar. But let's hear from Lucas Degrassi. His first front row start. First front row start since season 5 for Degrassi. He's with Nikki.
Well, Lucas Degrassi, what a way to make amends for what happened yesterday. Starting on the front row of the grid. Best qualifying performance of the season. Congratulations.
Yeah, yesterday we were quick as well, and after what happened to us, that completely unjust penalty that happened yesterday, that got me really, really angry, and just wanted to show the potential. Congrats to Jake, has been outstanding this weekend, same as last year. And yeah, just prove that the car is there and we can make a good quali.
Now, obviously, you're also hunting for that win as much as Jake Dennis is here. Who is going to have the pace when it comes to the race?
We'll see. Of course, we're going to try to win. That's what we're here for. Championship, the only thing I can fight for is for Rocky to still win the Constructors' Championship. That's the main target. But I'm going to try to win, of course, my first win of the season.
Huge amounts riding on this for the Rocket Venturi team. Lucas Degrassi, congratulations.
Yep, 34 points behind Mercedes EQ at the top of the championship, Rocket Venturi. So, and with both Mercedes not really up at the front of the order, this is going to be a big swing in the team's championship. That was Degrassi making that mistake down at the anchor, locking up, going wide, and that is where pole position went away for the Brazilian. But still, his first front row start since Mexico in season 5. He then had a front row start in Punta del Este in season 4. And then before then, it was the end of season 3 for his last front row start. So 3 front row starts in 5 years for de Grassi. But now he is there at the front. Here's a look at the grid. Alexander Sims, 22nd on the grid. Lotterer in 21st position. Turvey in 20th. Sergio Sedecamera in 19th position. Robin Freintz, 18th. 17th for Eduardo Mortara. And then it's 16th for Dan Ticktum. Bird, 15th on the grid for the Jaguar TCS Racing Team, just behind his teammate Mitch Evans. Stoffel van Dorn, championship leader, down in 13th place. Pascal Verdine in 12th. Roland in 11th, just missing out on the top 10. Vern is in 10th place. He needs a big haul of points this afternoon to keep his championship hopes alive. Askew Cassidy, 8th and 7th. And then it is Buemi, 6th. Nick de Vries in 5th. 4th on the grid, Antonio Felix da Costa. 3rd, Antonio Giovinazzi. Then Lucas de Grassi in 2nd. Jake Dennis on pole position for the London E-Prix. So the crowd making their way for a bit of lunch. Now let's head down to Nikki Shields, shall we? Because she is catching up with all of the drivers down there after that entertaining qualifying session.
Well, Antonio Giovinazzi quicker than Antonio Felix da Costa. First time in the duels. And this is looking very positive for getting some first points of the season.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to the team. I think we show yesterday already, that the car in the qualifying is really good. And unfortunately, yesterday I did a mistake, but today I really want to do well. And finally we did it. So yeah, P3 for the race. We know that our race simulator, race pace is not as good as the others, but like you say, here is really narrow track. So if we can defend and we can stay in the points, will be the main goal of today.
What was your experience like for the first time doing the duels? How intense was that?
It was cool. It was cool. Especially going to 250 in one lap, just out lap and then just push to 250. It was cool, when I won the first one. Unfortunately, we didn't went to the final, but it's still good enough. And now let's enjoy the race.
Exactly. Enjoy it and really hope you bring some points home for the team. Thanks, Antonio Giovinazzi.
Yeah, it could be big for Giovinazzi and Dragon if he can get some, because Neo have 7 points this season. They are 10th in the team's championship. Dragon have 0, so a 6th place or better for Giovinazzi, and suddenly they are going to be above them. So big opportunities there. There, though, is the Mercedes EQ team.
And Dario and I are joined by the Avalanche Andretti Cheshire Cat. Roger Griffiths, congratulations. The smiles say it all. 2 days in a row on pole.
Thank you. It's a really good day.
What have you managed to lock into this car that has proven so successful?
I think certain circuits just suit certain cars. And I think we found a setup with a car which we've evolved over the course of the season that really works well here. And I think, like I said yesterday, that hometown advantage for Jake is just worth that little extra as well.
How much have you changed overnight on the cars?
Very, very little. I think we've just made some adjustments for the change in grip. There was a little bit of rain overnight, but a lot of rubber went down. Ambient conditions are broadly similar, track temperatures up a little bit, so we just really followed the track and gone that way.
So as it rubbers in, the balance changes, the front loses grip relative to the rear, is that?
Yeah, it's just helped us. We saw where the car went yesterday through the day. We saw how the track evolved. So we're just a step closer in chasing the track. So it's just refinements.
And do you think with the people behind you, you've got a different race this afternoon as opposed to yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. And we know Lucas is a very tough competitor, so going into turn one cleanly. Maybe a little fortunate with Giovinazzi in 3rd place. That might help to get a bit of separation between the 2 cars in front. We'll see. It's going to be a long race. It's going to be a tough one.
And we've got to mention Oliver as well. What happened? He tapped the wall?
Yeah, he clipped the wall, just a track rod on the front, so very minor damage, but good performance from him earlier on.
Yeah, he seems to have come to fruition recently, especially with this race, because some might say when you dip your foot into Formula, it's really difficult to get used to everything with so much going on in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not an easy championship for a rookie. You know, and Oliver's not had that much time in the car coming into the season. Every track for him has been new. This track, I think, has just suited his driving style. And like we said earlier, it suits the car. So I think that's just really helped his performance.
He said yesterday, it's got more grip, this track. So it feels more at home. Is that a fair assessment, would you say?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he's just sort of coming into his own here, you know, with the energy management as well. Not quite as critical as it is some other places. So, you know, for a driver that doesn't have quite so much experience, that helps him a little bit as well.
And they're a good duo, aren't they? Sorry, Dario. They're a good duo together, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean they're a good comedy act. You know, they have a lot of fun together. And if you saw them out about town in London on Thursday wearing their
hang on, Roger. If it's another victory tonight, imagine what's going to happen tonight. London will be burning.
You might have to find another driver for.
Exactly.
Literally find him.
All right, Roger. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Radzi.
All right, thank
Cheers,
you,
pal.
Well, Stoffel Van Dorn, so much to talk about with the qualifications. First of all, with yourself, you're so consistent this season in terms of getting to the duels. Wasn't to be today. What do you put that down to?
Yeah, no, to be honest, it was one of my worst laps of the season. You know, it was a bit of a queue in the last corner and kind of standing still to manage the traffic. But then got to turn one and, yeah, simply overdid it a little bit and locked up the tires. So the lap was kind of gone from there. I think we had a lot of potential again to make it through and to probably fight for pole position again. But yeah, you know, only myself to blame, and yeah, still a long race ahead.
You're humble as always, but in terms of the context of this championship, the top four we focus so much on, not a single one of you guys featured in the duels. What do you put that down to?
Well, I don't know. You know, I can only focus on myself, to be honest. And you know, today I felt like I should have been in the duels, and I didn't do the job required. So yeah, nothing. You know, no one to blame for that but myself. But what considers the others, I don't know. Yeah, you know, I don't know if they managed to put laps together or not, or if they've just been lacking a little bit of pace or not. But I can't control that in the end, you know. So now I've got a long race ahead, and yeah, I want to make up some ground.
And just finally, from a personal level, you're always very stoic, you're always very humble, but do you feel the pressure of being on top and knowing that ultimately the championship is in sight?
There's always pressure. I mean, no matter what, every race that you go to or you start, you're always required to perform. And yeah, I think it's not really any different right now. You know, I'm really taking it race by race, trying to do the best job I can, and then we'll count the points at the end.
Have a great race.
Thank you.
Here he is, the man that's making pole position his own in London. Jay, congratulations again. Different proposition today, or pretty much the same as yesterday?
No, I think, you know, obviously the streets of London are treating me well, but obviously me and Lucas were separated by 100th in both our duels, so it was literally, I just went into it and was like, best man win. And and yeah, luckily the lap I did was honestly one of the best I've ever done in Formula E, and I knew I had to deliver that to beat the 12.6 we were doing, and we did just that. Obviously Lucas made a mistake along the lap somewhere, so I didn't really need it, but yeah, nevertheless it was super clean session, fastest in all our duels, and yeah, just really dialed in from free practice where I actually didn't feel that great in the car.
Why? Why does it all come together here? Last year, this year, I mean, almost just at one with everything.
Yeah, we're just so dialed in on this slow speed circuit, and yeah, we've improved the car in the middle sectors today as well. So even the faster speed corners, we're actually taking another step. And sector 3, I've been really strong all weekend. So it's also all about surviving sector 1 and 2 for me, and then I generally make the jump in sector 3. And yeah, honestly, the car was on absolute rails. So yeah, full kudos to the team for giving me such a good car, and it was just down to me to really deliver.
What did you do last night?
Just went out for dinner with my 2 friends and my girlfriend. So
is that your 2 friends who were just head to toe in linen yesterday?
Yeah, straight from Zara. They have shares in Zara.
A huge advert for like a certain washing powder. Did it get messy?
No, not at all. I won't be here if it did.
Exactly.
It will get messy tonight for sure.
All right, good lad. And if you are victorious this afternoon, obviously deserve back-to-back victories. This really makes a statement for your season, really, doesn't it? After coming off Rookie of the Year last year, now back end of this season, putting some serious points on the board.
Yeah, it's just nice to be back at the front, you know. Obviously, we've been like the best of the rest, that P8 guy in the races, so it's obviously such a big relief for myself and the team to get that win yesterday. And honestly, going into that final run then, I was so relaxed compared to what I was yesterday, and just, you know, it felt natural, it felt good to be there, and yeah, there's no reason why we can't do it again today, and yeah, I think everyone in the team deserves it. There's been a lot of hard work over the past sort of 3 or 4 months.
All right, good lad. Congratulations.
Well done.
To Jake Dennis, 2 poles back to back. Well done. Radzi is with Rocket Venturi.
Indeed, Amber, Susie Wolf, it's been such a topsy-turvy qualification. If we start with possibly the negative, Jev wasn't to be today, frustrating for him.
Edo.
Excuse me, Edo, sorry, thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, qualifying in Formula E is very tough. It's so close, you've got to get that lap together, and it just didn't come together for Edo. But we know the car's quick, we know what Edo's capable of, so let's see, yesterday we had Lucas coming from the back, all the way up into the top 10, so it might be possible today. We've certainly got a fast car, and that's the most important.
Edo's always dangerous on any track, as is Lucas Di Grassi. What a performance from him, by the way, especially given the context of yesterday and his frustration then.
We were all very frustrated yesterday because I always try to see both sides, and I always try and take a pragmatic viewpoint. For me, the penalty was way too harsh, having not had the data seen and read properly. So moving on, we wanted to come back and show what we were made of today. We were all very, as I said, angry, and qualifying P2 is our way of saying, okay, that's what we're capable of, and let's hope we can have a strong race, because Lucas around here has certainly got tremendous pace.
And just very quickly about Lucas, there is no man more passionate than Lucas Di Grassi, so out there he can produce anything.
He's a Brazilian. It's all or nothing, but no, he's great in the car, and like I said, I think he has the potential for having a very strong race today, which is important for us in the team championship.
Thanks for your time, Susie.
Thank you.
All right, Jack, congratulations to Jake Dennis, obviously back-to-back poles. Let's see if we can get back-to-back victories. But let's talk about the 4 drivers who are trying to win this championship. How would you summarise qualifying for those guys?
Bad. Van Dorn, bad, but kind of got away with it, like we were hearing there with Radzi. But for everybody else, what's going on? Where has all of their form gone since New York? Okay, we've come to kind of more traditional Formula E circuits, I think it's fair to say. They're kind of tighter, twistier, 90 degrees, hairpins. And suddenly all of the front runners have lost pace. And I don't know if it's related to that, or if it's entirely coincidental, or if they're just cracking under the pressure. I don't know what it is, but it's just a bit weird.
If they have a bad race, Jev in particular, he is out of contention.
You're absolutely right. The saving grace for all of them really is the other 3 in the championship fight didn't get into the duels either. So.
But Edo's on the cusp as well, Jack.
Yeah, Edo's 17th on the grid.
This battle, the 7th row, Mitch Evans and Stoffel Van Dorn, that is going to be fascinating to see how if they can come through the field.
Well, like you guys said, it is a jungle in there, and they've got a lot of drivers who, you know, are kind of fighting for their futures within the racing series.
Yeah, I just don't see what's going to happen in this race. I don't see any of them scoring big points. Maybe they get up to like a 9th or an 8th or something, but we could be in a scenario where the championship positions, the championship situation doesn't change after today, but oof, 29 fewer points available. That's the tough part.
Yeah, and I guess those guys would walk away from London going, we missed a massive opportunity there.
Championships are decided, in my opinion, on your bad days, right? It's your bad days that you look back on and go, I could have won that.
That's what you think, yeah, absolutely. But I really don't know. I don't know how this one, as you say, don't know how it's going to play out. If you're one of those guys at the back, you've got to have your eye on the main chance today. If somebody else takes another car out wide, you've got to get through to every opportunity, take full advantage of it.
Giovinazzi in 3rd, he's going to slide. Let's be honest, they haven't got race pace. He's going to slide. We know that. And then you've got all that bundle of drivers coming up. It could be a bottleneck at some point during this 45 minutes.
It's going to be busy. It's going to be fairly chaotic. I think it's going to be very aggressive. There's going to be elbows out. It's going to be really, really entertaining. I've no doubt about that.
And we've got a full house with the fans as well. Can Jake make it 2 back-to-back?
Absolutely. The man's on form.
All right, we're really looking forward to it. I mean, another qualifying session with lots of stories to talk about a little bit later on for the race. But please make sure you do join us. Is Jake Dennis going to be our back-to-back London winner? We'll find out. Check local times for detail, but we'll see you then.
We're back in London. We got green in London.
Push to attack now.
It's an attack.
Go ahead, max efficiency.
Amazing driving.